Hello everybody, welcome back to Forza Horizon 4 with a bit of a challenge. Now I like doing budget challenges, and normally they revolve around speedruns, because it's very easy to get very little money for 200 miles an hour. That's normally what I aim for. But I decided to do something different this time, and do a much more challenging budget challenge. A lap time, specifically a hill climb time. You see, currently the Mosler MT900 is the fastest car up our hill climb in 1 minute 30, which is quite impressive, but it is very expensive, and that got me thinking. What is the cheapest car you can make to do a 1 minute and 40 second lap? We're not going for the leaderboard here, because that would be quite expensive and quite challenging, and the prices would spiral out of control. But a minute 40, that puts us in the top 20, competing with, the TVR Speed 12, the McLaren 650S Spider, right around that area of the leaderboard. And 1 minute 40 is pretty darn fast up the hill climb. So, how little money do you need to be faster than a 1 minute 40? Now, there are cars that will be faster up the hill than others. Some of them will use 140, 139.9, or 139.1, something like that. That is not the most important thing. The most important thing is, can it do 1 minute 40 in the budget? Like, which one is cheapest? So, lap time will not be as important for the actual listing of the best vehicle, rather the price. Now, the most expensive car of the day was the Lotus Elise. This costing 74,650 credits. Now, I am including the base price of the car with that, so it's about 50 grand worth of upgrades I put into this car, 50, 30 grand, ranging in that area. And I thought it would do a little bit better, I will be honest. The Loti have always been very fast from standard. I mean, some of these cars are ridiculously fast, but they're not fast enough to do a 1 minute 40. And to get that 1 minute 40, they require a surprising amount of upgrades, which I was not expecting. I was hoping this would be, race tires, aero, maybe an exhaust or something, and that's it. That's all I need. I need a lot more than that. I need weight reduction, better brakes, better suspension, bigger tires, more power, and it just ratcheted up the price every time. Meaning, the Lotus was not quite as good as I was hoping for. A little bit disappointing from the Elise in 10th place at just under 75,000 credits, including the price of the car. Now, the next most expensive car is the Porsche 944. Again, a vehicle I was hoping to do a bit better. It's relatively cheap. It's by far the cheapest Porsche you can get in the game. And I thought, it's a Porsche. It should be very fast up this hill. And it was. Problem is, it cost 70,500 credits to do so. I thought it would be a lot better. I mean, none of these cars are poor handling at all, okay? These are all very high grip cars, because look at the track. The track has one long straightaway at the beginning, and that still has a hairpin, and that still has a, long, fast corner that you have grip for. And you never really, with the exception of the front straight, you never get above 9,500 miles an hour ever. So I was hoping power wouldn't be that much of a problem. But it was. It was. You see, the Porsche is by far not the least powerful car starting off, but it's also not the most powerful car we had starting off. None of these were particularly powerful, just because, let's be honest, they're 20,000 credit starting prices. I think the most expensive one was a 40 grand starting price. So, this is right there in the middle, like 30s for this 944. It just didn't do as well as I was hoping for. I mean, 70,000 is not bad, considering that's how much you spend on upgrades for a rally car build, but, again, I was hoping for just a little bit better, but the more parts I put on, the higher the price and it just wasn't low enough. Now this was an interesting one. The BMW M3 from 1997. Because it has a wide body kit, and that's why I picked it. Because it's relatively cheap, and the body kit, yes, it's $5 grand, but it gives us a heck of a lot more grip thanks to those bigger tires. And that's what I was going for. I was hoping that would be enough, and it was considerably better than the Porsche, its other German counterpart, costing just 66,000 credits, roughly, for the BMW, which is not bad considering racing tires are $10 grand, the body kit's $5, max tire widths are also pretty up there. Most of these vehicles had extension, like wheel arch extensions, whatever they're called, where the wheels get pushed out. I guess, would it be stance? No, it wouldn't be stance, what is it called? I don't know. Point is, they have the wheels get a little bit further out, and that only costs like 300 credits, 600 credits in total, so that was worth it. Now, one thing you might see with a few of these cars is the one tire fire going on. You see, these are budget cars, obviously, and the differential costs $2,000. And while yes, it's very helpful in getting your power down, it's not worth $2,000. I can just be a bit better with the throttle control and not have to worry about one tire fire. So, most of these vehicles, you'll occasionally see them spinning the inside corner wheel, which is, you know, you just have to deal with it. It's maybe not the most efficient system for delivering power on the planet, but it's just not worth the $2 grand, and you see the BMW here is a bit of a prime example of that, because it's already up there in price at $66,350, and I just didn't want to waste any more money, so you can see it scrolling around a little bit. Now the Evo I thought would be rather good at this. It's all-wheel drive, has over 300 horsepower, and is basically a road-legal rally car. However, there is one problem with having an all-wheel drive car from standard, especially a four-door sedan, and it's understeer. This vehicle, while it doesn't look like it, had a considerable amount of understeer compared to future vehicles or previous vehicles on this list. And that means I couldn't carry as much corner speed. It is relatively light, less than 3,000 pounds, but it doesn't really like cornering quite as much as, say, a Porsche or a Lotus. And that means you have to put more money into it. That being said, it is cheaper than the Lotus and the Porsche, just 63,000 credits for this vehicle. But I was hoping for a bit better. It cost 35 grand base price, which is one of the more expensive vehicles of the day. But I was hoping, since I got a lot, I got 300 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and lightweight for that 35 grand, but it wasn't good enough handling. Not enough. Not in tarmac, anyway. If this is a rally series, if this is a rally event, this would be very good. But for tarmac, it struggles a little bit, I will be honest. I think it's the understeer. I can't explain another reason other than understeer. It just wasn't fast enough, which means I just had to put more and more money into it. Eventually, I got 63 grand in a sub 140. Now, this is a vehicle I was expecting to do a heck of a lot better. Another Lotus, this one being the 340R. It's supposed to be an Elise, but they kind of took away the body of the Elise, left the windshield and some doors and some lights, and called it a car. Which, I think it looks brilliant. It's one of the most unique vehicles on Earth, actually. And on paper has a lot. It weighs less than 2,000 pounds, has a lot of grip, even though I'm sliding it around. Ignore that. And it has a moderate amount of power, considering how light it is. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough. Nope. Wasn't enough for the 340R. It still costs 63,000 credits. And admittedly, we are starting from a pretty high base price. The car is almost 40,000 credits, but I was sneakily hoping I would only have to put race tires on it and maybe some aerodynamics. No. You see, since it has so little weight, and so much downforce and no power, it doesn't really accelerate. Which, again, is not that important on the track, but it loses those precious seconds. Most of these cars lose precious seconds on the straightaway. So you have to pour power into it, relatively speaking. And it just eats up your price. And both Lotus and Lodi were killers when it comes to adding power for money. Sad story. No, I didn't want this to just be rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive cars. So in 5th place, we have the Focus RS. I was curious to see what a front-wheel drive car could do. And, well, the Focus RS, probably the best of the front-wheel drive hatches. And it was rather good. You see, the base price is only about 30 grand. And the entire car cost $58,750. The first vehicle under the 60K mark is front-wheel drive, yes. And I think it's the power of the silly wing. The silly wing mounted on the roof instead of the rear, because there isn't really any place in the rear, so they just kind of stuck it on the roof. That's my type of engineering, actually. Yeah, I was impressed. I was fearing this vehicle might have too much torque steer, because it is 300 horsepower going to the front wheels and over 300 torque. But no, there were no real problems. I mean, if you were an absolute idiot, sure, you could get the front wheels spinning, you'd see the differential not helping this. But as long as you weren't a complete imbecile, you could get this car around the course quite easily. I was very impressed with the Ford, even going flat out around that very fast left-hander. Yeah, it was a very nice car. I was hoping the front-wheel drives would not disappoint, and, you know, 5th place, less than 60 grand for being the worst driveline imaginable for going up a hill. So not too bad, you know, not too bad. It did struggle a little bit with the hairpins, but again, we have so much grip with the racing tires. It's not too bad. A little bit of oversteer as we go across the line for the Focus. Another oddball, this one being the BMW Z3. Now the Z3 is a strange one because it has the qualifications of a hatchback, you know, small wheelbase, rear wheel, big cabin, front engine, but it's rear wheel drive, and it has 300 horsepower, and only costs 35 grand, so I thought I would give the underused BMW a bit of a use for once. And it did very well, costing just 57 grand, in fact, for this BMW. Not bad. It required a few upgrades, about obviously racing tires, aerodynamics, as you can see with the very peculiar wing. It was surprisingly good. I was not expecting this car to do quite as well as it did, even with my terrible driving. Luckily, lap time isn't quite as important, provided I break the 140 barrier. Now, this is the reason this vehicle is so oversteery. Well, short wheelbase, about almost 400 horsepower in this car because of the upgrades, and not that big of tires do contribute to that. They do. But all in all, it was just about drivable enough to make it up the hill in less than 140 for just 57 grand. I really like the Z3 hatchback thingy. Yeah. Really like the coupe, I guess. It's not really a coupe, but whatever. Yeah, BMW Z3 Coupe, only 57 grand for this interesting machine. This thing, this is quite impressive, actually. This is 54 grand for this car, and with a starting price of 25 grand and 300 plus horsepower on tap from the get-go. Basically, all I needed to do was add racing parts, roll cage, wing, racing tires, max tire widths, bigger brakes. Oh, and I put a supercharger on it, because the supercharger costs $1,500, and it gives me an extra 100 horsepower. So, it is a very fast car, and it's challenging, to say the least, to get up the hill with it, but it is very quick. provide you don't miss your braking points, control the manic wheel spin, and get this 3,000-pound contraption around the course. It is by far the heaviest vehicle of the day, heavier than the BMW, both BMWs, and the Focus, as you would expect. But if you put enough power in something for as little money, you can get it to go quite fast, apparently, provided you can control it. And yeah, it was a challenge for sure. The brakes weren't as good as I was hoping for them to be, and again, traction control, I don't use it, so very difficult. And it made it. It made it up the course for just 54 grand, faster than a 1:40, which I would argue is quite the impressive feat. I use the differential spinning away once again. So, second place will be back to the Germans and back to the hatchbacks. We go from a rear-wheel drive Australian muscle car to a German hatchback. The Volkswagen R32. All-wheel drive at 350 horsepower. And it's the first vehicle under 50,000 credits. It cost just $48,150 to be faster than a 1:40 lap. I was a little trepidatious about this vehicle, I will be honest, because all-wheel drive vehicles tend to have understeer, and the all-wheel drive tends to put a premium on their price, but there are a few, and this is one of those vehicles that does not have a premium on its price. In fact, it's just 25 grand for a B-class car from the factory. And it's very nice. I mean, it has a few interesting add-ons, like a weight-reducing hood scoop, and a massive wing of wings, and I was afraid of understeer, like the Evo. The Evo had a lot of understeer, this did not. This had no problem whatsoever with anything, pretty much. It was grip with a side of grip on a grip platter. I mean, I locked the brakes up once in a while, but other than that, no problems at all. It was very nice to drive, it was very fast, and it was fast enough down the straightaway that I didn't lose tons of time with its 350 horsepower. All in all, the R32, probably one of the better cars I've driven so far. However, for the winner, we have to go to Vauxhall with the VX220. Now, as I was building the Lotus and racing the Lotuses, the Loti, whatever you want to call them, I was a little afraid that the VX220 would fall into a similar ploy of having too little power and costing way more than I thought it would. And I was wrong. You see, it may start off with less than 200 horsepower, but underneath that vertical exhaust pipe and strangely flat hood lies a 2,000-pound vehicle that has a surprising amount of acceleration. And that means for just 45,000 credits, you can do a 1:39 lap of the hill climb. 45,000 credits is 15,000 credits less than a Camaro ZL1 in this game. And the ZL1 is a 650 horsepower S1 class vehicle, and it's barely faster than this. That is absurd. That is absolutely absurd. I will be honest, I did not expect the VX220. I mean, I knew it was a great car, I knew it was great handling, but I didn't expect it to be, because the car cost 25 grand. So I only had to put racing tires and a little bit of upgrades on it. And for that amount of money, it did one hell of a good performance. So there you go, just 45k is all you need for a hill climb car, apparently. Yes, Vauxhall VX220 is massively faster than everything else. I mean, it's 3 grand cheaper than the Volkswagen. It's, what, 25 grand cheaper than the Porsche. It's 30 grand cheaper than the Lotus Elise. And it doesn't really have that much more power or weight. I mean, the Lotus is lighter than it with more power, and it's just not as fast. It's not as cheap for the performance, which really surprised me. And yeah, who knows? It is a DLC car, which could potentially be, I say it's a DLC, it's a car pass, yeah, so that could be why it's a little bit cheaper. I didn't use the auction house in any of these. I could have gotten an S2 class car for 5 grand and raced up there. It would have been crazy fast, but I feel like that's a bit cheating, considering the auction house prices are sometimes, steals, shall we say. Quite steely indeed. So, here's a tip. If you want a hill climb for very little money, get yourself a Vauxhall. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more.